Hello, welcome everyone. It is Olga Tamanova and Ukraine Media Center at Ukreninform. It is 103rd day of the heroic fight of the Ukrainian nation, and today we're going to discuss this subject that is in focus of the entire international community, the stop of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and the prospects of the resumption of its work. We will hear from Volodymyr Kudrytskyi, the CEO of Ukrenergo National Energy Company. Hello. I would like to begin with the fact that the largest missile attack on energy infrastructure in the history of our country has become a personal tragedy for each employee of Ukrenergo. Two of our colleagues, Svetlana Kurilovich and Alexander Holodny, died. These were the people who, since the very beginning of this invasion, worked in Kharkiv region without skipping a single shift, regardless of whether the enemy was far away or close. They always were at work providing electricity to hundreds of thousands of people. So that's a personal tragedy, personal pain for every employee. And we value their heroism, their self-sacrifice. Also, since these events have happened in the last days, and it is crucial to provide electricity to Kharkiv and other places after the Sunday's missile attacks. And also we had some subsequent challenges in Monday and Tuesday. Right now we managed to resume two electricity connection lines for Kharkiv. We managed to do this very fast, and right now, together with Kharkiv Regional Energy Company, we are working to provide electricity to the Romanian consumers because of the specific topology of the network in that region. I was personally very impressed with ingenuity and perseverance of our colleagues, the engineers, the dispatchers, our colleagues, and the regional energy company. After these attacks on the civilian infrastructure, clearly intended to cut off the civilian population of the electricity, in just 4.5 hours they managed to restore about 85% of electricity consumption in Kharkiv and Donetsk and in other neighboring regions. Also, in the last days, on Monday and Tuesday, there were two shellings of the infrastructure in Kharkiv region, which entailed some limitations for energy supply in Kharkiv region. I have managed, we have already established two sources of power in the city. We understand the risks, we understand the situation, we are getting ready for any situation, we are getting ready with some extra capacities, with some repair teams who will be available 24/7, ready to service the networks and bring them back online so that every consumer has electricity at their homes. Unfortunately, I cannot share these plans in detail, just for the understanding about the resilience of our energy system. I will give a couple of examples from the past. In March, because of the Russians' invasion into Kyiv region, we lost a big number of electricity lines connecting Kyiv energy node with the energy system of Ukraine. We had to use some innovative solutions to provide electricity to this Kyiv energy node, and the temperatures outside were still quite low. The consumers have not even noticed this. Another situation, because of the attack on one of our substations in western region, there was no electricity supply at the water supply system, and very quickly we managed to resume the electricity supply, and again the consumers did not see any lacks of water in their homes. So the work that's done by Ukrenergo quite often is unnoticeable to the consumers, and to me as the CEO of the company, this shows the quality of this work. Unfortunately, sometimes we cannot predict the types of massive missile attacks like the ones we had on Sunday, but our task is to be able to resume as fast as possible the electricity supply. And as we can see in practice, we can do this quite fast together with the military civilian administrations and the state emergency service and other organizations, institutions responsible for energy security of our citizens. Also, speaking of resilience of our system, I'd like to mention that since March 16th, we are connected to the European energy system. And in case of necessity, we can get energy supply from abroad. I will underscore here that this is a cardinal change in terms of our energy security. Can you imagine what would happen if we still were connected to the energy system of Russia and Belarus? How different this situation is for us now. How big was this step made by Ukraine to strengthen the energy security of our state in this different time? This is surely one of the key factors defining the resilience of our energy system. Now a few words about Zaporizhia NPP, as it was noted in the subject of our briefing, and it was chosen even before all those events that I have mentioned. Indeed, Zaporizhia NPP is stopped right now, so the energy units are in the cold stop mode. This was made while we were able to resume reliable energy supply for the cooling system, for the energy units, and the storage of used nuclear fuel. So all of these critical elements are now powered by the Ukrainian electricity through Ukrainian power lines. This is the infrastructure that we control. So from this standpoint, the situation is sort of stabilized compared to what we had about a week ago. Still, we are considering different situations for the fall and winter period with different combinations of NPPs available. We did some modeling, some scenarios included Zaporizhia NPP, some also excluded it, and we all understand that the President and the Prime Minister have already mentioned that the next winter season will be one of the most challenging in our history. But still, in all the scenarios we have developed, including the most pessimistic ones with the loss of some NPPs and loss of some generation capacities, the task of providing electricity to our consumers is challenging but attainable. And also I have mentioned already our connection with Europe, so we have reserves both inside and outside our country, which means our foreign partners can also help us in case we need this. For now, Ukraine is not importing electric power, it is instead exporting it, supporting our neighbors to cover the energy gaps they have, and that will increase in the upcoming winter. So right now, Ukraine has opened a window on Europe, the European energy market, and the Ukrainian energy system right now is getting used to its new role of the support of the European energy security. It's not the role of the country that just receives help. It's not the role of a country that needs constant care, but instead it's the role of the country stabilizing energy supply in the entire region, thanks to its considerable energy generation capacity which Ukraine now has. And even in this time, you can see that while Zaporizhia NPP is unavailable, it is consuming energy from our network, thus providing for its cooling systems. It's not producing any electricity, but even in this situation, Ukraine continues to export huge scopes of electricity, over 600 megawatts that are exported to Moldova and countries of the EU, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. This is the best proof that we are capable of such things even during the war, even after massive missile attacks, even having lost our largest European NPP from our balance. So we are working closely with our European colleagues to increase the exports of energy to Europe. We know that this export has a much bigger potential than right now, and understanding that this is a gradual process, we are actively promoting the idea that the exports of electric power from Ukraine is a way to financially support Ukraine, but it's also a factor supporting the energy stability of Europe. And actually, for the upcoming winter, we are getting ready. We will have the networks and sufficient storage of fuel for covering the needs of the Ukrainian citizens and Ukrainian armed forces, but also for being an exporter of electric energy in winter as well. Let me remind you that the government has tasked Ukrenergo to establish strategic reserves of coal, and for now this task has been successfully implemented. Large volumes of coal are already there at the storage facilities of the electric power stations, much larger stores than in last year. Also, we are ensuring financial capacities for the gas generation through the mechanism of additional services through us as a system operator, and we are paying for these additional services, ensuring the economic balance for the gas-fueled power stations. We are ensuring sufficient generation capacities for the Ukrainians to have electricity in their homes. So, in summary, we do not want to sound too optimistic for the upcoming winter season. We need to mention that it's going to be challenging, but we will cope with this as we have been coping before in the previous years and now during this large-scale invasion of the Russians, which has happened, by the way, while the winter period was still there. We were able to keep up back then, and we will do the same now. What we need for that is this self-sacrifice, the kind of those two victims have demonstrated. So, speaking of the experts, recently the president has supported some energy support to our partners. I understand that you have already started providing this support in terms of experts of electric power. Yes, indeed. The president pointed out that Ukraine needs to support our friendly nation of Poland, and Poland that has been supporting us throughout this military aggression. We are indeed working to establish one electric power supply line with Poland, and we are already exporting electric power since April. We are planning to increase these exports since October and increase the exports of electricity to Poland through the restored electric power line till the end of this year. This will be unprecedented speed of project implementation. We are currently working on this. We are still following the schedule, and here I like to point out the importance of a closer cooperation between Ukraine and Poland, which exists right now. There is this brotherhood not only between nations and their governments, but also between the energy operators, thanks to which we are able to implement this project very fast. Also, the president has mentioned that resources will be provided to support Poland with the shipments of coal, and thanks to the coal capacities that are available and that are being amassed, we are able as a country to afford this and to still have resources for our own generation. So Zaporizhia NPP and the stop of power blocks, what will be their impact on the energy system of Ukraine? Well, I don't have the numbers, and I actually don't want to share them, because we don't need to give the hints to the enemy. They are openly speaking of their plans to destroy our infrastructure. I don't want to help them with these computations, but you can see that the Ukrainian energy system is currently balanced. This is not some theoretical response, but this is a fact. This is practice. You can see that the Ukrainian energy system is now balanced. It is exporting over 600 megawatts abroad, and this is the best answer to the doubts that may be in our society. I don't want to misrepresent the situation. It isn't challenging, but we are coping with it and we will cope with it. All of us, citizens of Ukraine, we all understand quite well that all of our territories will be deoccupied and we will quickly restore the proper work of our energy infrastructure once the deoccupation is completed. Your questions? Hello, it's Ukreninform, Ivanka second. I understand that Ukraine is not intending to stop the exports to Western Europe, but there is some information in the media that since next week there is a possibility of stopping these exports. Is there a discussion of anything like this right now? And also, is there a scenario for stopping energy supply to industrial enterprises? Now, we are not considering the stop of exports. We are considering the increase of exports. Next week, we are going to have the meeting of the working group taking decisions about the export limits we have available. For Romania and Slovakia at 250 megawatts. So we will be discussing the increase of these limits next week. So our plans are the exact opposite of what you could see in the media. I did not see these messages, but in any case, our plans are to increase the exports. And also, as always, we will be tracking the situation, and the Ukrainian consumers will always be a priority for us. For now, we do not have any reasons to believe the exports will be reduced, and we hope it will be increased. As for the electricity supply to industrial enterprises, following the same logic as I have outlined before, in the critical catastrophic situations, such limitations would be possible only after we stop the exports. And since we continue the exports, it means that the Ukrainian manufacturers will still have their electricity. For the upcoming season, we are not planning any limitations for the consumers. Our task is for the Ukrainian energy systems to have sufficient capacity, both for the domestic needs of our citizens and our business. Interfax Ukraine. Can you share under which conditions we could resume the work of Zaporizhia NPP? We could hear that only deoccupation and demilitarization would be the preconditions. And what is also the response of your colleagues? Well, speaking of these conditions, it would be correct for the operator of this NPP to answer your question, and it is called Energoatom, a state enterprise. There is one more aspect here. Again, we don't want to help the occupiers by unveiling the technical details, but shortly after the deoccupation, we will quickly resume the infrastructure, ensuring the capacities of the power plant, and we will soon see Zaporizhia NPP generating large amounts of electricity for the Ukrainian systems and for others as well. You see, the state emergency system is testing our readiness for critical situations right now. So the technical conditions, let they remain for the technical specialists. Ukrenergo will do its best to resume this work as fast as possible. And your second question about the discussion of the situation with European system operators. Yes, many of them have experience in nuclear generation in their countries. They are France, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, others who have nuclear generation. Of course, all of them are interested, and of course they have been asking the question about the balance of our energy system when we do not have Zaporizhia NPP available. These were the questions asked in the very beginning of the invasion, and I will maybe unveil a secret here. We have the daily exchange of messages between Ukraine and these Western operators. Each day they are getting a message from us, the statement that the system is stable and balanced, and we in return are getting the message from them that the Ukrainian energy system is supporting the European energy system well, and that there are no technical challenges, no technical problems in the process. So this has become a routine. They are worried about us, yes, but they know that we are able to cope. So this is a kind of a professional discussion that is happening between us. They do not have any reservations or fears about our loss of some percentage of our generation and having some possible problems. In my business, I have a question about the first part of your remarks about the Kharkiv region. Do you have any preliminary assessment of the losses, the technical losses in the deoccupied territories, and also the assessment of the situation after the missile attacks? Do you have, so to speak, the backup equipment that is expensive and has a long lead-in time to quickly replace anything that's destroyed, whether the stores of Ukrenergo itself with the support of our Western colleagues, etc.? So speaking of the deoccupied territories, we have a huge problem. We cannot run as fast as our military are liberating the territories formerly occupied by the enemy. So we have not even managed to get to all of those infrastructure facilities. Of course, there are some limitations on access because of the military still completing their jobs, bringing back the normal life to those facilities. And once we are sure that our employees are secure to work there, we will quickly resume the well-established work of these facilities. Speaking of the destructions of our infrastructure by missiles, we are not going into detail of what exactly was destroyed and what type of losses there were. We already know about the list of those losses, and we have mentioned on many occasions how important it is to have the reserve stores of some materials, not only wires and some cheaper materials, but also the equipment that may take 8 to 15 months to be manufactured. We have this equipment because over the last 5 years, Ukrenergo was providing for the reconstruction and construction, increasing the scope of the power lines, similar to those that could be observed in the 70s of the previous century. So we have lots of equipment that was substituted with newer equipment which is more energy efficient, but still we have some capacities for backup. And since the scope of this work was unprecedented, we also have unprecedented stores of the used equipment that is still usable. So this is one of the secrets why our system is so viable. The first component is our employees who are very committed, but also there is a material scope for this work. So a question from Expo Electricity. Is there a possibility of remote management of facilities to save the employees from missile attacks? Good question. Unfortunately, not always this is possible. Sometimes it's not even the issue of technology, it's quite often the issue of reliability of the work of the facility. So even if we have some automated substations, and we have some since 2018 or 19, in certain situations, in certain modes of work, there is a need for the employees to be there to take some quick decisions. They have to be at least in close proximity. The repair staff who needs to repair the equipment in case of an attack. So the full resumption of the work of energy system without people is impossible. You know, people are the heart of this system, and without people, this energy system will just not work. Therefore, we are saying here that our colleagues understand well the risks that are there when they service the critical infrastructure that the enemy is brutally trying to destroy. Can you speak of money a bit? Have you counted the losses? What have been lost since the beginning of this invasion, and specifically on September 11th? So you can see that the situation is changing weekly, and at the most recent and the final count of these costs will happen after the full deoccupation of Ukrainian territories. But what I can really assure you is that someone will probably not even have enough of the oil and gas profits to compensate for these losses. So of course, this will be a huge amount that they will have to pay. You addressed BBC News. I have a question about the nuclear power plant. Do you have the stable connection with them now? Is there any threat to this connection, and if yes, what are the possible threats to the nuclear power plant? I wouldn't like to go into detail on this. This is a technically sensitive issue, and you should understand that the first priority to us is security, the security of our colleagues working there, and ensuring the security of the entire continent. Let's put it this way. So speaking of the connection and the type of connection, that what can happen if, I would not like to comment on this now. I hope you understand why. And generally, we can understand that it's important to have connection of the dispatchers, the operators, and specifically in the big nuclear power plants, like this one, the largest one. Of course, it needs to follow certain technical protocols. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you for joining us. We had with us Volodymyr Kudrytskyi, the CEO of Ukrenergo. Thank you so much. Let's believe in our armed forces and do everything for our victory.